You've been told to go silent. That no contact is the secret weapon, that if you just stop texting, stop calling and disappear, he'll come running back. But what if I told you that's only half the truth? Because here's the thing, silence without energy shift is just absence. And absence alone doesn't make an impact, especially not on someone who was already starting to detach emotionally. No contact can only work when it's rooted in genuine transformation, not just tactical withdrawal. If you're sitting by your phone, secretly hoping he notices you're gone, then you haven't really pulled away. You're still emotionally entangled, just quietly. And guess what? He can feel that. Men are intuitive in ways we don't give them credit for. They sense when they still have access to you energetically, even if your texts have stopped. That's why so many women say, I've been in no contact for 3 weeks and he hasn't reached out. It's because your energy is still chasing through your thoughts, your intentions, your emotional availability. He doesn't feel the void because you haven't truly created one. This video is about what happens when you go deeper than no contact. When you don't just remove your presence, you remove your energy, your focus, your desire to be chosen. That's when the shift happens, not because you're gone, but because your validation is no longer available. Your emotional support has disappeared. Your softness, your warmth, your attention, it's vanished, and he has no idea how to get it back. No contact isn't enough unless you back it with unshakable self-worth. That's when silence speaks louder than any words ever could. When you pull away, his mind doesn't go quiet, it starts racing. Even if he doesn't show it, even if he keeps his distance or acts like he doesn't care, there's a shift. Men feel that energy drop, and when they do, it triggers something they rarely admit out loud: confusion, curiosity, and even fear. See, up until now, he was used to your presence. Maybe it wasn't constant texting or calling, but he felt your emotional availability. He knew, consciously or subconsciously, that if he needed your attention, he could have it. That if he wanted connection, you'd give it. So when that emotional channel suddenly goes quiet, it's not just the silence he notices, it's the loss of certainty. At first he might brush it off, she's probably just busy, or he might even test the waters to see if you'll break first. A meme, a casual hey, or even total silence just to gauge your reaction. But if you stay grounded, if you don't react, if you don't rush back to explain yourself, that's when he starts to wonder. What happened? Did she lose interest? Is she seeing someone else? Why isn't she checking in anymore? The male ego doesn't like unpredictability. When you break the pattern, it disrupts his sense of control. And if there were real feelings under the surface, ones he didn't fully acknowledge before, they begin to rise. Your absence becomes a mirror. Suddenly he has to face how much he actually noticed you and how he might have taken that for granted. Men often don't process emotions in real time. They do it in hindsight. So while you're pulling back and working on yourself, he's just beginning to process what your presence actually meant to him. It might take days, weeks, even longer, but when a woman he was emotionally connected to stops reaching out, it creates a psychological gap. A gap his mind wants to fill. The more graceful your silence, the louder it echoes. The less you chase, the more he has to question his role in your story. And in that space, two things can happen. He either steps up to match your worth, or he fades, because he never truly deserved your energy in the first place. But make no mistake, he notices, even if he doesn't say it, even if he posts like nothing's changed, even if he seems fine. A man always notices when a woman he once had access to becomes unavailable and unbothered. That's the power of detachment, not because it punishes him, but because it awakens you. And when a woman reclaims her power, the shift in dynamic is undeniable. He doesn't just think about where you went. He thinks about who you're becoming without him. And that thought, that's what lingers. You can go silent. You can stop texting. You can block his number, unfollow his social media, and disappear from his life. But if your energy is still chasing him, you're not really gone. This is the piece most people miss when they go no contact. They think silence alone will create the shift. But in reality, it's not the absence of your words that he feels, it's the absence of your energy. Let's break this down. Physical silence is what you do. You remove yourself. You stop reaching out. You no longer engage. It's a surface level action. And yes, it's an important first step. But without the internal alignment, without the actual shift in emotional energy, it's just a performance. He might not hear from you, but if you're still energetically tuned in, still refreshing his feed or wondering when he'll reach out, that frequency is loud, that energy leaks, and men can feel it. You see, people are far more energetically intuitive than we give them credit for. They may not be able to explain it, but they know when they still have a hold on you. They know when you've gone quiet, but haven't really let go. That's why some men don't react at all to no contact. Because deep down, they still feel your emotional availability. They still sense your attachment, your yearning, your hope. But when you shift your energy, when you pull back, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, everything changes. You're no longer waiting. You're no longer checking your phone. You're no longer rehearsing what you'd say if he came back. Your focus is no longer centered around him at all. And that is when your silence starts to speak. That's when it stops being a strategy and starts being your truth. That's when he begins to feel your absence, not just as a missing text, but as a missing presence, a missing warmth, a missing emotional connection he used to take for granted. The energy shift means you're no longer doing things for a reaction. You're not sitting in silence hoping to manipulate an outcome. You're actually detaching, you're reclaiming your energy, pouring it into yourself, into your healing, your glow up, your boundaries, and suddenly his emotional safety net is gone. That unspoken certainty that you'd always be there, it vanishes. And here's where the psychological effect kicks in. When someone is used to having access to your emotional energy, your kindness, your reassurance, your softness, and that energy is no longer available, they feel it way deeper than if you just ghosted. Because now it's not just what you're not doing, it's who you're becoming. Your entire vibe changes, your self-worth rises. You feel lighter, more grounded, more at peace. And men feel that shift. Some will panic, some will test the waters, some will try to re-engage just to confirm they still have influence, and some will silently spiral trying to understand how they lost your attention so easily. But the ones who truly value you, they'll recognize what they've lost. And they'll show up different, or not at all, which is still a blessing, because the real magic isn't in how he reacts. The real magic is in your evolution. So if you've gone quiet but still feel tethered to the outcome, ask yourself this: have I just removed my voice, or have I reclaimed my power? Because when you shift your energy, you stop hoping he'll fill your silence. You start knowing he'll fill your absence. And that's a power no words could ever deliver. Creating emotional distance isn't about being cold, rude, or detached in a fake way. It's not about pretending you don't care when you're secretly breaking inside. It's about choosing to prioritize your peace over their confusion. It's the conscious decision to stop pouring into someone who isn't pouring into you, and allowing that silence to echo louder than anything you could have said. When a man has grown used to your emotional availability, your check-ins, your softness, your concern, he starts to see it as something guaranteed. It becomes a rhythm in his life, a quiet comfort that tells him she'll always be there. But emotional distance breaks that rhythm. Suddenly the energy that used to flow toward him is redirected. And that shift, that creates a ripple effect that he feels deep. So how do you create that kind of emotional distance? It starts by stopping the invisible chasing, not the texting or calling. Those might have already stopped. But the emotional chasing, the overthinking, the wondering if he's thinking about you, the analyzing of every past conversation, hoping to find clues in what he said or didn't say. You can't detach if you're still living in a story where your worth depends on his response. True emotional distance is quiet confidence. It's the silent decision that says, I no longer place you at the center of my emotional universe. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself more. It means you finally realize that someone who wants to stay will never make you question your place in their life. And if he doesn't reach out, you don't spiral. You keep rising. Because emotional distance is a commitment to you. It's the reminder that silence is not a game. It's a sanctuary. It's not about making him miss you. It's about making space for someone who never would have made you question your worth in the first place. And here's the truth. The deeper the emotional distance, the more magnetic you become. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you've stopped giving your energy to someone who didn't earn it. You become mysterious, self-contained, radiant. The version of you that doesn't chase, that doesn't even need to, is the version that he remembers, the version that lingers. When a woman creates emotional distance with grace, it hits different. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it leaves a mark. And sometimes the strongest impact is the one you make in silence, when you simply choose yourself and never look back. Detachment is often misunderstood. People think it means being heartless, emotionless, or cold. They think it means shutting down, building walls, or pretending you don't care. But true detachment isn't about cutting people off. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's not an act of bitterness. It's an act of self-respect. In relationships, especially ones where the emotional dynamic feels unbalanced, it's easy to start giving from a place of fear. Fear of losing him, fear of not being chosen, fear that if you stop showing up, he'll forget you or replace you. So you keep showing up emotionally, hoping he'll finally meet you there. But that's where the cycle begins, where you start shrinking just to hold on to something that might not even be real. The power of detachment is this: you shift from reacting to observing. You don't overanalyze every message. You don't spiral over delays in replies or second guess his tone. You notice what's there and what's not. And you make decisions based on facts, not feelings. You step into clarity. And clarity is magnetic. When a woman detaches without bitterness, she radiates calm. She becomes mysterious, not because she's trying to be, but because she's no longer emotionally predictable. She doesn't panic when someone pulls away. She doesn't beg for clarity. She simply watches, trusts herself, and keeps moving. And trust me, men notice that energy. They feel the difference between a woman who's silently waiting and a woman who's unavailable emotionally, because she's no longer outsourcing her happiness. She's no longer auditioning for a role in his life. She's already cast herself as the main character in her own. Detachment also allows you to love more purely. You're no longer giving with strings attached. You're not investing in someone just to get something back. You can be present without overextending. You can enjoy moments without trying to control the future. You stop clinging, and in doing so, you set yourself free. And in that freedom, everything shifts. Either he rises to meet you, or he fades away, and either way you win, because you're no longer controlled by fear, you're led by self-worth. So if you're in that space right now, hurting, confused, wondering whether to lean in or let go, remember this: detachment is not the end of connection. It's the beginning of healthy connection. It's the space where real love can exist, because it's not built on control or anxiety. It's built on truth and choice. You don't have to be cold to protect your heart. You just have to be clear on who you are and never again give someone the power to make you forget it. Detachment breaks that cycle. When you detach, you're not saying, I don't care about you. You're saying, I care about me enough not to abandon myself for you. It's the moment you stop trying to control the outcome and start focusing on your alignment. You're no longer desperate for his attention, because you realize your value doesn't rise or fall based on his ability to see it. You stop needing to explain yourself, prove yourself, or convince someone of your worth, because when you're truly detached, your peace becomes non-negotiable. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to become cold to do this. You don't have to stop being kind. You don't have to harden your heart or pretend you never cared. You can still have love in your heart and boundaries in your life. That's what real maturity looks like. It's strength with softness, power with grace. You don't need to send a long message explaining how hurt you are. You don't need to vent your frustration in hopes he'll finally understand. And you definitely don't need to post cryptic quotes on social media hoping he'll get the hint. If you truly want a man to feel your absence, here's the truth. Silence becomes deafening when it's backed by a real energetic shift. When you stop giving, stop chasing, stop hoping, and start living for you again. That's when your absence becomes something he actually feels. He starts to feel the difference when the emotional safety net is gone. The version of you that used to always be available is suddenly focused, glowing, and unbothered. Your time, your energy, your love, it's no longer just handed over freely. And the moment you pull that back, it creates a void. That void is where his awareness grows. What makes a man feel your absence is not just what you stop doing, it's who you become in the process. You become unavailable in the best way, not out of spite, but out of self-worth. He senses you're no longer waiting, no longer wondering, that you're no longer emotionally dependent on his attention. And that shift is powerful because men don't respond to pressure. They respond to loss. And loss doesn't always show up in a dramatic goodbye. Sometimes it shows up in a quiet transformation. You no longer texting first. You no longer making excuses for his inconsistency. You no longer showing up emotionally while he stays on the sidelines. He might not react right away. He might act unaffected. But men process emotionally in delays. While you're already deep in healing, he's just beginning to notice what he lost. It might hit him when he realizes you haven't watched his story, or when he notices you're not liking his posts. It might hit when he sees you out, smiling, glowing, no trace of the old attachment. And here's something powerful to remember. Your value isn't proven by how loudly you fight to be seen. It's revealed by how gracefully you walk away when you're no longer honored. Start becoming the version of yourself who doesn't need to be seen to know she's valuable. Men don't always remember every word you said, but they remember the feeling of being emotionally fed by your presence. They remember how you made them feel safe, admired, adored. So when that energy disappears, it doesn't go unnoticed. It leaves an echo. If he truly valued you, that echo will become a wake-up call. If he didn't, that silence will protect you from deeper disappointment. Either way, your absence is doing more than your presence ever could, because it speaks to your self-respect. Because the moment you stop trying to be heard is the moment he starts hearing you in everything. Your silence isn't empty. It's full of power, clarity, and self-worth. And trust me, he'll feel that louder than any words ever could. And here's what makes your silence so loud. You're not using it to manipulate. You're using it to evolve. You're not sitting in your room waiting for his reaction. You're out there building your life, reclaiming your confidence, reconnecting with your joy. And that's when you become unforgettable. So if you want to make him feel your absence, don't send a final message. Don't try to explain what he's losing. Just stop showing up for someone who doesn't show up for you. Stop responding, stop wondering, stop investing. Men don't remember the loudest woman in the room. They remember the one who made them feel something real. They remember the one who didn't need them but chose them. The one who was soft but not weak, loving but never desperate, warm but still had boundaries like steel, becoming the woman he can't forget. Doesn't come from chasing, it doesn't come from proving your worth, overextending yourself, or trying to convince him that you're the one. It comes from stepping fully into your own power, your own energy, and your own value. With or without him, the woman he can't forget is the one who didn't lose herself to love him. She kept her identity, her joy, her vision. She gave love with an open heart, but never let that love become a cage for herself. When he pulled away, she didn't chase. She observed, she adjusted. She didn't shrink, she glowed harder. And here's what's wild. Men know the difference. They may not admit it, but they feel it. They can sense when you've mentally and emotionally checked out. When you're no longer performing for their approval, when you're no longer available for situations that drain you. That's the moment you shift from an option to a memory he can't let go of. You become unforgettable the moment you stop fighting for someone who's not fighting for you and start living in alignment with who you truly are, not the woman who waits for texts, doubts her worth, or accepts breadcrumbs, but the woman who wakes up every day knowing she is the prize. And maybe he'll wake up one day and remember your kindness, your calm, your fire, the way your presence made him feel grounded and alive at the same time. He might scroll through your old messages, revisit pictures, hear a song and think of you. But by then you'll be far ahead, living a life that reflects everything you knew you deserved all along. So don't focus on being unforgettable for him. Focus on being unforgettable for you. Build your life. Laugh without looking over your shoulder. Pour into your purpose, your energy. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. And when love comes again, you'll attract someone who doesn't need to be reminded to appreciate you, because they'll already know. You are the reminder that real connection isn't built on fear or attachment. It's built on mutual respect, emotional safety, and effort. You were the mirror that reflected everything he wasn't ready to become. And if he ever grows, he'll remember that it was you who showed him what love should have felt like. Because the truth is, he's not used to women walking away with peace. He's used to drama, to second chances, to emotional pleas. But when you leave with love, dignity, and silence, that haunts him. Not because you were manipulative, but because you were rare, because your goal was never to be remembered by a man who didn't see you clearly. Your goal was to never again forget yourself. You become unforgettable when you choose yourself fully, unapologetically and beautifully. You were the lesson.